I see Christmas candles on a Christmas tree.
What's all this crazy question they're asking me? This is the craziest party there could ever be. Don't turn on the lights, because I don't.
Morning, Mr. Jason. How are you?
A little sleepy, but I'm up and about. No excuses, ministry. Let's go.
In the last year or two, what's been going on with you to where you're all in with the Lord?
Well, it's an interesting word, all in. I think that's kind of what it is what is all in. But either way, last night I just texted a buddy who I lived out in LA with, and we would go out and pick up girls and drink and live the very earthly, worldly lifestyle of having tons of fun and stuff. And he's a good looking guy. But then those last couple of years I lived out there, I was like, man, this is just not fulfilling me and stuff like that. And I'm going to go to the church. And I started doing things within the church again and stuff like that. And I would invite him and he would show up to some of the events, but not really and stuff. But he texted me the other night. He's like, hey, man, I just bought a Bible and stuff. And he's like a hard copy one. And he's from Kentucky. So he has a little bit of this like Southern like culture and history of like, getting raised up in the Bible Belt type of thing. And I just told him like, oh, good for you, man. If you have any questions or any concerns or anything, or I would love to be a part of the process because I believe the Bible is the one thing that can transform you. Not what people say, not anything else. Just get into the Word of God and let Yahweh, let Adonai be the person that transforms your heart. And yeah, there's a lot in there. So
finally his time, huh?
Yeah, so
hopefully,
kind of thinking of that story, I would say the difference is over the last 5 years or so, or maybe a little bit longer, I've been in the Word a ton.
Okay.
Yeah, the Word of God.
It's funny that I was thinking it was the last couple years. That's just because that's when I've been aware of it. But you've been on track for about 5 years now.
More and more, new chapters or more relationships or new job opportunities or life situations come about. And I think at those different chapters and seasons, the question is how much am I running to the gospel for the answers?
Yeah.
And in one season, I might do it a little bit here and there. And then in some seasons, I'm doing more. I would say right now, I literally day to day, week to week, I run to the Bible to be my compass and be like, what should I do with this situation?
That's cool. All right. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked some strangers on the street the other day. If you're going to a wedding reception, would you rather go to a wedding reception with a bar and with dancing, or would you rather go to one that doesn't have a bar and doesn't have dancing?
It has to be an open bar and dancing. And it's an open bar. Thank you. The husband and wife for the open bar invitation.
Okay. Now I'm confused because you just talked about how much you're into the Word and how much you're into the Lord. But if you're going to a wedding reception, you want to drink and you want to dance, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that the open bar and the drinking is a part of celebration. It is in the Bible. And dancing. One of the coolest ones I've ever went to. Now they didn't have. Well, let me think about this for a second. I went to a really Jewish Orthodox wedding where they actually put a sheet between the men and the women. The men were on one side, the women were on the other side, and it was a really cool cultural wedding of seeing. And they put the men on a chair and they're lifting them up and dancing around and they're singing their songs and stuff. And
so when it came to the dancing, were the men dancing with the men and the women dancing with the women, or did they?
Yes. So that was the different part is you didn't have the intersecting sexes dancing together. They would dance.
Yeah, because drinking a lot and dancing at a wedding is a recipe for a lot of sparks flying and a lot of stuff happening. So that's interesting, the cultural difference that if you're drinking and dancing at a Jewish wedding, at least probably back in the day of Jesus, the men are dancing over here and the women are dancing over there, which is kind of funny.
Well, what I'll say to that too is when you walked into that room, maybe it's because I'm not familiar with it, but at the end of the day, you could feel that that's not what this party was for. I'm not sure if you've ever been to like a really nerdy party where they don't know how to party, and you walk into the room and it's like you can tell these people aren't used to partying. So it's like their expectations of what a party is and stuff are different expectations,
Yeah.
and what their goals are. Well, that's kind of what it felt like there. Like their party was just a celebration of life, a
Yeah.
celebration of beginning. It's not a celebration of like, hey, what could happen like if we went to a bar or something like that. So I do think that there's a cultural aspect of when you walk into an environment of what you're expecting. And I think
Yeah.
we all know that because we could go to someone's house or some friend's dinner party and we're like, oh, this dinner party, we might have a glass of wine or a beer or two at this person's. And then another person's house, you might expect, to do cake stands or something.
Which, you mentioned a nerdy party. Being a certified nerd, anything I do is a nerd event, even if it's a party. But
There
um,
you go.
so going to the bars with your buddy and picking up women is not the same thing as what we're talking about here in John chapter 2. Well, let me read it, and we're going to get into it. I'm just going to read first 12 verses of John chapter 2, and we'll talk about it. So it says, on the third day, wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, they have no more wine. Woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink, but you've saved the best till now. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. In John, there's 7 signs or miracles recorded.